Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts.
And today's a big one.
It really is. Usually we're looking at surface level news, a route change, a new menu. But today feels heavier. The stories we're looking at, they feel like fundamental shifts in how the whole industry operates.
That is the perfect way to frame it. I mean, you look at the three big headlines, and at first they seem totally unrelated.
Right.
You have an airline policy change from Norwegian, a construction update for Royal Caribbean from a shipyard in Finland, and then a huge real estate deal in Miami for MSC.
But they're all connected.
Exactly.
Right.
When you put them together, you see a pattern. The major cruise lines are trying to exert total control over what's becoming a pretty chaotic environment.
Control is the key word there.
Sure.
We're not just talking about where ships go. We're talking about controlling when you arrive, how the ships are built with microscopic precision, and controlling the U.S. market from the ground up.
Right.
So let's map this out. What are the three pillars we're diving into?
Okay, so first up is risk reduction. Norwegian Cruise Line is totally changing how they handle air travel to deal with all the flight chaos.
A move that prioritizes the ship's schedule over the passenger's wallet, I'd say.
We'll get into that. Second is innovation. We're going to the Meyer Turku shipyard to look at Icon 4.
Ah, the Pearl.
The Pearl. It sounds like a decoration, but it's changing the engineering logic of these megaships. And we'll talk about how they're building cabins and factories now.
And third?
Third is expansion. MSC Group is planting a $100 million flag in downtown Miami. They're building a command center, really, to capture the American market.
So whether you're a planner, an engineering geek, or a business watcher, there's something massive here. Let's start with the one that's going to hit the average traveler the most immediately, NCL's new air policy.
This is a pivotal shift. As of January 26, 2026, if you book flights through NCL Air, the days of flying in the morning of your cruise, they're over.
It's mandatory now.
Mandatory to arrive a day early.
The death of the day of arrival. And I just want to be clear, because I can hear people thinking, oh, that's just for international trips.
Nope. And that's the kicker. This is for domestic flights, too. Doesn't matter the home port. You could be flying a short hop from Atlanta to Miami.
Boston to New York?
You're getting into town the day before if you use their air program.
To some people, that just sounds like a hassle, an extra vacation day you have to burn. But you've got some data that shows this isn't just NCL being difficult. It's them being terrified of the airlines.
Terrified might be strong, but realistic definitely fits. You have to look at the data. Air travel reliability has, it's just degraded. The whole system is brittle.
We saw that with Winter Storm Fern, right?
That was the tipping point.
Yeah.
On Monday, January 26th, the very day this policy kicked in, we saw 5,100 cancellations.
5,000.
And over 15,000 flight delays in the U.S. alone.
15,000 delays in a single day.
Exactly. So when you have that level of chaos, the odds of a day of flyer making their ship just plummet. It's mathematically impossible for thousands of people to get to the port on time.
And missing the ship isn't what it used to be. People have this idea of, oh, I'll just catch a flight to the next port and hop on.
Right. And we need to bust that myth right now. That's where people get into serious trouble. We have to talk about downlining.
Explain that for us.
So downlining is just the term for getting a passenger who missed embarkation to the next port. It sounds simple.
Like a customer service fix.
But legally, it's a nightmare, specifically because of something called the Passenger Vessel Services Act, or PVSA.
Which is not the Jones Act.
Not the Jones Act. People always mix them up. The PVSA is about moving people. It forbids foreign-flagged ships, which is basically every major cruise ship, from moving passengers between two different U.S. ports.
So if my ship leaves Miami and the next stop is, say, Key West?
You legally cannot join the ship in Key West. If the cruise line let you on, they'd be transporting you from one U.S. port to another. The fines would be massive.
So you might not be able to get on until, what, Cozumel? 3 days later?
If you're lucky. In a lot of cases, you just lose the whole cruise. So NCL sees 15,000 delays, and they realize they have to force a buffer. They're protecting the vacation because they legally can't fix it if you miss the boat.
Okay, that makes operational sense. But here's the friction point. NCL is mandating the early arrival, but they are not mandating that they pay for the hotel.
And that is the catch. The capital C. The flight date moves, but the hotel cost is on you, the consumer.
You're on your own for that.
They offer packages, their Hotel and Hotel Plus program, But if you just book the air bundle thinking it was an all-in deal, you're suddenly looking at a big extra expense.
And a hotel night in Miami or New York isn't cheap. For a family, you could be adding $300, $400, maybe $500 to your trip.
Easily. And that can wipe out any savings you got from bundling the airfare in the first place.
So how's the community reacting? I'm guessing it's split.
Totally split. You see experienced cruisers on Reddit saying, finally, this is an excellent decision because they know the risks. They would never fly in day of. But the more casual traveler feels a little bait and switched.
And there's a really important detail here about existing bookings.
A huge one. So generally, the policy applies to new bookings made on or after January 26.
But
However, and this is a big one, if you call to reprice your cruise because you saw a price drop.
which we always tell people to do.
Right. But if you do that, the system often treats it as a rebooking. It updates you to the current policies. So you might call to save $50 on the fare, but suddenly you've triggered the new air rule, and now you're on the hook for a $400 hotel stay.
That's a trap for the savvy deal hunter. You have to do the math.
Don't trip over dollars to pick up pennies.
It really signals a bigger shift, doesn't it? The lines are saying, we can't control the airlines, we can't control the weather, so we're going to control the timeline.
That's the new reality.
Yeah.
And honestly, when you look at what happened with the Norwegian breakaway and that bomb cyclone, weather is only getting more volatile.
Yeah.
Just in time doesn't work anymore.
Well, speaking of adapting to massive physical forces, let's move from getting to the ship to how the ship is actually built. Because what's happening in Finland is it's mind-blowing.
It is. We're talking about the Meyer Turku shipyard. This is where Royal Caribbean is assembling Icon 4.
No official name yet.
Not yet, just Icon 4. But the main feature they're installing right now is the Pearl.
We've heard a lot about this. It sounds like a big chandelier, but it's actually structural, isn't it?
It is so much more than decoration. I mean, visually, it's this huge sphere over 52 feet wide right in the Royal Promenade, but it's also load-bearing.
Wait, so this piece of art is literally holding up part of the ship?
It's a massive spherical column connecting Deck 5 and Deck 6. But think about the physics. A ship flexes at sea. Steel bends.
And a sphere is pretty rigid.
Exactly. So if you just weld a rigid ball into a flexing hull, something's going to snap. The engineering challenge was creating a mounting system that lets the ship flex around the sphere.
Like a giant ball joint in a skeleton.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And then they line the inside with these kinetic art panels. Jay Schneider, their innovation chief, called it a bit art, a bit sculpture, a bit experience, a bit wow.
A bit wow. I like that.
It's functional art. But the other thing that's fascinating is the Lego aspect of the cabins.
Right. They're not actually building the rooms on the ship.
No. They're building the entire stateroom, bed, desk, tiled bathroom, mirrors, everything at a different factory, Piquia Works. It's a finished room.
So when it arrives at the shipyard...
It's a sealed box. A crane lifts it, slides it into the ship's steel frame, and they just plug in the power and plumbing. Like sliding a drawer into a dresser.
Why do that? Is it just about speed?
Speed is a huge part of it, for sure. But the real driver, the thing that matters to the passenger, is quality control. Well, imagine trying to perfectly tile 2,000 bathrooms inside a humid ship hull with welders going and cables everywhere. It's a mess. By building them in a clean factory environment, you get perfect consistency. Every tile is straight. Every light works.
So when do we get to see this floating city?
The debut is slated for 2027. It'll float out late 2026. But this is just one part of a huge conveyor belt. You had Star of the Seas in 2025, Legend of the Seas in 2026, then Icon 4.
These are enormous ships.
Almost 250,000 gross tons. And they run on LNG, which is a whole other engineering puzzle. Fitting those giant cryogenic fuel tanks into the hull next to a 52-foot art sphere and 2,000 modular cabins. Very few places can do that.
It's an assembly line of giants, but you can't just build these things. You need a massive shoreside operation to handle it all.
Which brings us to our third story, MSC's big play in Miami.
This is the expansion pillar. MSC just opened their new North American headquarters, and the scale. It's a $100 million investment, 130,000 square feet.
That's not a satellite office, that's a fortress. It's a statement. They're at Block 55 at Sawyer's Walk, with 400 employees for both MSC Cruises and Explorer Journeys. But the location, that's the real story.
It's not out by the airport.
No, it's downtown, blocks away from the Bright Line station.
The high-speed rail.
Exactly. MSC is betting on rail-to-port connections. They know getting 7,000 people to Port Miami by car is a nightmare. They're aligning with the future of Florida transit.
It also makes them a huge local economic player. The Beacon Council is projecting a $300 million annual impact.
That buys you goodwill. When you're building the world's largest cruise terminal, which they are, you need the local government on your side. This headquarters proves they aren't just visiting, they're residents.
This really feels like MSC is shedding that European skin. For a long time, they were seen as the Italian line that didn't quite get the American market.
You hit the nail on the head. This is a localization strategy. Their CEO, Ruben Rodriguez, said the office reflects the scale of their ambitions. You don't spend $100 million if you're just testing the waters.
And they're expanding everywhere. Galveston, New York, Seattle.
They want to be in the same sentence as Royal Caribbean and Carnival. And to do that, you need a war room. That Miami HQ is their war room.
So let's zoom out. When you put these three stories together, NCL tightening logistics, Royal perfecting the mega ship assembly line, and MSC building a shoreside empire, it feels like the industry is maturing.
It is. I'd call it the industrialization of leisure. That old romantic idea of cruising is, well, it's gone. This is about moving millions of people, like the record 6.1 million Nassau saw in 2025, through a very complex, weather-disrupted system.
The margin for error is gone.
Completely. If NCL doesn't change the flight rules, the system breaks. If Royal doesn't use modular construction, they can't meet demand. If MSC doesn't build that HQ, they can't manage their fleet. It's all about scale and mitigating risk.
So for the listener, what's the takeaway? What does this mean for their next cruise?
It means travel is becoming high reward, high effort. You get these incredible ships, these experiences like the Pearl that were impossible a decade ago. But you, the cruiser, have to be more professional about it. You have to plan that arrival day, budget for the hotel. The days of just showing up with a suitcase are fading fast.
Which brings up a final question for today. We're seeing ships become these modular engineering marvels, headquarters become downtown anchors. The industry is betting big, but with weather events becoming routine.
You're wondering if the complexity is becoming a liability.
Exactly. Is the cruise industry becoming too big to fail? Or is it building systems that are just too big to manage when nature throws a curveball?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. Rerouting a ship with 7,000 guests and 4,000 crew during a major storm. That's not a headache, it's a logistical crisis. We are watching them try to engineer their way out of that risk in real time.
A fascinating high-wire act, and we will be here to watch if they stay on the rope.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.